continued to, I guess, speak to one another, and his tone changed, and I knew the tone, and we ended up, I guess, arguing back and forth with one another, and it was the things that he was saying very much frightened me, and cursing at me and threatening me. And
did he want you to let him out of the suitcase?
I'm sure so.
Okay. Go ahead, tell me.
And it got very heated very quickly, and he continued to push on the suitcase. And my fear was that he was going to break out of the suitcase, knowing that it was a broken suitcase. And his hand started to come through. His hand started to come through this way. And so I shook the suitcase. Trying to get his hand to go back in, shaking it, and telling him that, please stop doing this. Please stop doing this to me. Please stop doing this to me.
So his hand actually got out of the suitcase?
Yes.
And you went to the suitcase?
Yes.
And shook it?
Yes.
Did that force his hand to go back in?
No.
So you're shaking it. Were you shaking it to try to get the suitcase, his hand back in?
Yes.
How long did you shake it?
I don't know.
But his hand was still out?
Yes.
Was he trying to get out?
Forcefully, yes.
Was he angry at you?
Yes.
Were you in fear?
Always.
If he would have gotten out of the suitcase, what would he have done to you?
Like he used to tell me, he probably would have made me unrecognizable, or I would have lost my life.
Did you lose the grip on the suitcase?
Yes.
Where was the bat in relation to the suitcase?
It was leaning up against the dining room table, right there.
How far was the bat from the suitcase?
3 feet, 2 feet.
Okay. Was his hand still out of the suitcase?
Yes.
And was he getting out of the suitcase?
He very much was trying, yes.
And so what did you do?
For the split-second reaction that I had, I happened to see that, and I grabbed the baseball bat and was trying to poke his hand to go back in, to please don't break through, please. So I hit his hand.
Did you hit the outside part of his hand?
Yes.
We've seen the photographs of his left hand. Did you cause the bruising there?
I'm guessing yes.
Now, you've seen the bat. It's a youth bat.
Yes, I bought it for my son.
Is this the bat you used?
Yes.
And you said you poked him with it?
Yes, I kind of pushed, like I held it with the skinny part here, and then
So the grip here,
prodded at it, yes.
you grabbed it with both hands here,
Yes,
and then the barrel of the bat, the big part of the bat is here.
correct.
And you thrusted it into the different areas of the suitcase?
I started with his hand, and his hand, he was still trying to get out. He was still trying to do that. So I started to push on the suitcase around it, hoping to have his hand retract and go back inside.
You made those injuries.
I did,
We've seen the photographs.
yes,
We see the bruising. Is that from that bat?
yes.
Eventually, did his hand go back inside from you doing?
Yes, finally, he had subsided and retracted his hand.
So in your mind, did you prevent him from attacking you?
Absolutely. Split-second decision.
Now, once he retracted his hand, do you remember zipping it up some, or what did you do in relation? Because he was upside down, was he not, at that point?
Yes,
At some point, you flipped him back up.
I did.
Tell how that happened.
He wasn't cursing, he wasn't threatening, his hand was inside foremost. There was no more of him trying to break through the suitcase. So I felt safe enough to turn it back over. It wasn't happening anymore.
You went back to the video and the couch,
I did, yes.
and we saw the second video,
Yes,
the 22-second, and he's right side up again,
yes,
and you hear him say, Sarah?
yes.
Had you left enough room for him to get out? Zipper to zipper.
Yes, that's how his hand was trying.
That suitcase has 2 zippers, doesn't it? And they meet at various places along the line?
Correct.
How much room, when you flipped it over, how much room was between zipper to zipper?
I don't know specifically. I mean, it was enough to where his hand was coming out.
After you had hit him with the bat, was he not trying to get out anymore?
No,
Did you believe that he could breathe in there?
yes,
Did you ever believe he could die in there?
no, at all,
Were you trying to kill him?
never.
Did you want to kill him?
I did not.
Did you walk upstairs?
I did, yes.
Why didn't you let him out before you walked upstairs? Were you afraid?
Terrified is more of the word.
As long as he was in the suitcase, he couldn't harm you.
Correct.
When he's... Did you want him to calm down?
Yes, I wanted him to stop being angry because I know what it is for him to be angry.
You went upstairs. Where were the dogs?
The dogs ran upstairs with me.
And where did they go?
On the bed.
Did you have the phone with you?
Yes,
I know at some point you called your husband Brian, did you not?
I did.
Do you recall how long that conversation was?
Not very long.
Can you recall what was said?
I don't remember exactly. No, I don't.
One moment. Miss Boone, Sarah Boone, you said that when he was in the suitcase, he was threatening you. Can you tell the jury what he was saying?
I don't know. Am I allowed to curse?
Yes.
But he was going to fucking end me. And that's what made me ask him please to stop doing what he's doing to me. That he was going to, I'm guessing, try his best that night to probably take my life.
But what, the threat you heard was
He's going to
say the
fucking
word.
end me.
Excuse me?
Fucking end me.
End you?
Yes.
One more.
Yes, sir.
Judge, can we approach the bench?
Yes. All right, members of the jury, it is 2:14. I have a matter that I have to discuss with counsel at this point in time outside of your presence. So I'm going to ask you to retire to the deliberation room. We'll bring you back in as promptly as possible. Again, similar instruction that I've given you. Please do not conduct any independent investigation or research as the person, places, things, or charge involved, and do not have any discussions amongst yourselves or anyone else about those things. We'll bring you back in as promptly as possible. Thank you.
Jury exiting.
Y'all may be seated. Thank you. State, you can proceed with any argument at this point in time.
Judge, I believe that's pretty close to what we already knew from the deposition testimony, from the doctors relaying what she said for the proffer. What we have here is testimony from the defendant. Her timeline is she comes downstairs after having gone up to the shower and hiding, laying down, after being declared to be it. She comes back downstairs, and before she gets back to the bottom of the stairwell, she can see that the victim is in the suitcase trying to get flat because the lid is flopping and he's not hidden just yet. And so she comes over, and I believe she testified she was moving it around before actually zipping the lid shut, but moving it around, everybody's laughing, it's all fun and games still, and then she zips it, and it's still fun and games, and everybody's laughing, and then at this point she testifies that this is now her opportunity to get on her pulpit to express her true feelings about everything, and that's when she sits down on the couch and opens up her phone device and begins recording what later turns out to be IMG _1062.movie at 11:12:45 for 2 minutes and 3 seconds. During this period of time, the decedent is expressing meekly that he can't breathe. The only time he ever curses at her is, "Sarah, I can't fucking breathe. Babe, I can't fucking breathe." He is demonstrating under the law that he is in fear of losing his life. She has committed an aggravated assault. She has committed false imprisonment. She was the initial aggressor. There was no overt act to justify these actions that she took against her boyfriend. She then goes on to say that during this period of time between the end of the movie at 11:14:48 seconds and before the next one starts at 11:23, that it's now at this time, while he's still constrained and Clearly unable to get out under his own power despite having his hand out, she begins beating him with a bat, poking his hands, poking the suitcase with a deadly weapon. A bat is used for baseball, but it can also be used to harm another person. And according to the medical examiner's testimony, there was great harm caused to him, deep ecchymosis bruises. She can't start to do this out of fear, like the analogy I gave earlier. If I pull a gun to rob you, Judge, and you pull a gun, I can't shoot you in self-defense. She started this. She started this. There was no overt act, and therefore, we're asking for you to prevent, under the case law, any prior instances of violence, any reputation evidence, and any battered spouse syndrome evidence, because that's simply just what the case ended up being. Thank you.
Response.
Judge, this was a game by two intoxicated people. When people are drunk and intoxicated, they do silly and stupid things. The evidence is uncontroverted that Jorge Torres willingly, by his own choice, elected to hide in the suitcase. By their interaction between the two of them, giggling and laughing at each other, he consented to her zipping up the suitcase. And the playful nature of what was going on during those few minutes prior to the video. When the video is turned on, there's a 2-minute period where they're talking. He's saying, I need to get out, I can't breathe. She's not taking him seriously. As you've seen from the videos, I thought it was the boy crying wolf. She did not appreciate the fact that he could be actually having trouble breathing. And this was a chance for him to be heard by her about how she felt about some things involving their relationship. A short time later, the video was turned off, and then that period has been testified to by my client. And that period is uncontroverted. That's a second period of time. We've got that time for the video. We got the 11 minutes. We got the 22 seconds. And there's no video, there's no audio, there's no eyewitness, there's nothing but Sarah Boone's testimony. And she's testified here today that they had words, there were threats, he got his hand out of the suitcase. She knew by the threats and him getting his hand out of the suitcase that he was about to get out of the suitcase and he was going to hurt her. A reasonable person under that scenario would believe she was about to be harmed. She was an imminent threat of harm. She blocked that attack by grabbing the bat, hitting his hand. When that didn't work, she started poking him with the bat in the suitcase. Eventually, she poked him several times. He put his hand inside the suitcase. She put the bat up. When she realized he was not going to do that any further, she flipped him over right side up. She still had a fear, knowing that if he got out, she would be harmed. He would beat her up. She went upstairs. That is an overt act based on the discussions, coupled with the fact that he threatened her, using the word, I'm going to fucking end it for you, or some words to that effect. I don't remember her exact words, just before she went upstairs while he was still in the suitcase. If she would have let him out, and this is now this is an event involving an omission, failure to act, failure to unzip him at that point, before she went upstairs. The failure to act, the failure to unzip, which would have let him out, which would have created a situation that she believed was imminent bodily harm to herself. And I guess I'll get a couple of examples. Let's say that a police officer is called to a scene, and the only thing he hears is there is a suspect, and the suspect may be armed. So, of course, the officer pulls out his revolver, and he's walking around. Well, then eventually he finds the suspect, and the suspect reaches for his waist. The officer doesn't see the gun, but the officer sees the movement to the waist. The officer fires and shoots the suspect. The officer is justified because there's an immediate threat of harm. The officer has to react instinctively. There's no time to think. Similar to the actions that Sarah Boone had to take. Another example, you're in a bar with your buddies and you've had something to drink and another group has had something to drink, and one of your buddies gets into an argument with one of the buddies on the other party. And one of your friends, seeing that it's being escalated and the guy that's arguing with your buddy is aggressive, more aggressive than your buddy is. Your buddy's trying to settle the thing, but this other individual, maybe he's had too much to drink and he's more aggressive. So you go around behind this individual, and before he's able to strike your buddy, you grab him. You lock him up. That's physical restraint to block an attack. Or you grab him by the neck and you choke him. Physical restraint to block an attack. That's what she was doing with the suitcase. If she let him out of the suitcase, she was going to be harmed based on him trying to get out with his hand, based on the threats he made while he had his hand out, and based on the threats he made while he had his hand inside just before she went upstairs.
Thank you. Court's going to review all the case law that it's obtained in its research in this matter and come back with an oral ruling momentarily. Thank you.